This is Free Talk Live. You may bring up whatever is on your mind here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. And we do have our Discord on-air call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm. You connect to those call-in line rooms, and you will sound almost like you are sitting here in the studio with us, which I wasn't expecting to be. Well, I was expecting to be sitting in the studio tonight, but I was expecting to be monitoring the first Free Talk Live episode from the Mariana Islands. Unfortunately, Mark didn't get the memo that we'd been planning to do this for weeks, basically ever since he left. He thought that we had more testing to do, apparently, so he wasn't going to do a show tonight. So here we are, nobody.
Yay!
Yeah, it's good to be here with you as usual. I did ask Mark if he wants to, get his butt in gear and actually, show up and do a show tonight. So maybe he'll do that. It sounds like he's interested in possibly joining the program. So if we can get him connected appropriately, we might let him take over the last hour or two of the show. So we'll see how that goes. It's not like he's not there. He's down in the Marianas. He's awake. He just didn't think he had a show to do today for some reason. So
okay.
So that's what went wrong. So I know that some people might have been expecting that to occur here tonight, and that is why that has not occurred at this point. Because I did make an announcement on our email list this weekend that was going to be happening. So if you tuned in expecting the first show from the Marianas tonight, it may still be coming. We'll see. That remains to be seen. But you know what? There's a lot of interesting stuff in the news tonight that we weren't going to get to talk about because we weren't planning on being here, nobody.
It's true.
But turns out we are here, and so we get to talk about it, including Christopher Cantwell. And you broke this news to me earlier today. I hadn't heard it until we were in the car driving to Concord this morning when you told me that Chris Cantwell, former co-host here on Free Talk Live, who we had to fire because he became a racist and went down a very, very dark road, has now been arrested by the FBI, apparently, in an arrest that transpired within the last 24 hours at some point. How did you come to find out about this?
Facebook.
So people were talking about it. There was
people
news going around.
Somebody was a couple of people posted his indictment online.
Yes, and I haven't. We've been driving and we've been in Concord testifying at a cannabis decriminalization hearing. So neither of us has
get a witness
has had a chance to actually look at the indictment. But according to WMUR, he has been indicted on extortion and sending interstate threats. Indicted by a federal grand jury in this case. Arrested this morning in Keene by FBI agents, presumably at his home. According to the indictment, Cantwell allegedly sent an instant message through Telegram Messenger app to a man who uses the online pseudonym VM. The indictment alleges that Cantwell threatened to sexually assault the man's wife if he didn't give him information he wanted about someone else.
Although the interesting thing is he didn't say sexually assault. He said one of the 7 words we can't say on the radio.
He was going to F his wife in front of his kids or something like that?
Right. So the interesting thing is he could have been threatening to seduce her, in which case the threat is not only not criminal, but it's not credible. So, because, who's going to get seduced by Cantwell?
This is a really short indictment. It's actually only 2 pages, apparently.
Yeah, it's a 2-page indictment.
So, this is short enough to where we can just read it. Here is the story. On or about June 16th, 2019, because a lot of times indictments are 15, 30, 20 pages.
Hundreds sometimes.
Yeah. Within the District of New Hampshire and elsewhere, the defendant, with intent to extort from victim 1 a thing of value, namely personally identifying information for a man known by the online pseudonym VM, and for the purpose of issuing a threat and with knowledge the communication will be viewed as a threat, transmitted a communication in interstate commerce containing a threat to injure the person of another. The defendant, talking about Chris Cantwell, sent an instant message through the Telegram Messenger app to victim 1, stating, quote, "So if you don't want me to come and F your wife in front of your kids, then you should make yourself scarce. Give me Vic, it's your only out," unquote. Vic, presuming to be the name of the person he was looking for. And then on or about June 16th, which is the same day referenced previously, Cantwell allegedly, for the purpose of issuing a threat with knowledge that communications will be viewed as a threat, transmitted a communication to interstate commerce containing a threat to injure the person of another. The defendant sent an incident. The same thing it just said. So if you don't mean to come and F your wife in front of your kids, why did they put the same statement on page 1 and page 2? So one was in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code Section 875B. Oh, they're saying the same statement violated two different sections of the code. So the first statement, so if you don't want me to F your wife, violated Code 875B and 875C. So they're saying that it's only one count, but it's two violations of the U.S. Code is the way this is written up.
Interesting. Okay.
So they've been looking very closely at Christopher Cantwell. Obviously, they have wanted to, I'm sure, swoop him up as soon as they possibly could on whatever excuse that they possibly could. What do you think about this, Nobody?
Well, I mean, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I mean, on the one hand, it seems like the case is kind of weak because he did not use a word that implies violence, or necessarily implies violence. I don't know if it implies violence beyond a reasonable doubt. But, you know,
I mean, it doesn't necessarily imply that. I tend to agree with you. I mean, for all we know, Cantwell has already had sex with the man's wife by consent.
Yeah,
right?
And that's definitely possible. Now, if that's the case, that would certainly be a devastating argument for him to make at trial. The problem is, you know, he's Cantwell.
Right.
So, you know, he's not going to get the benefit of many doubts. And, you know, I would be very hesitant to go to trial if I were him. So he's in a bad situation.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to offer him. I imagine they will offer him a plea deal on this one. And what it'll look like, I don't know. Also, Title 18 U.S. Code Section 875. So we'll have to look that one up because one of the questions that we were asking sort of aloud as we were driving around today was, is this a felony? Or is this a misdemeanor? I mean, maybe it is a felony.
An indictment nearly always indicates a felony.
Right. Yeah, and would really the federal government waste their time over a misdemeanor?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the federal government prosecutes people for misdemeanors, but I think it mostly does it in, like, the District of Columbia and on military bases, places where it's the only authority.
Code 875B, whoever with intent to extort from any person, firm, association, or corporation any money or other thing of value transmits in interstate or foreign commerce any communication containing any threat to kidnap any person or threat to injure the person of another shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years. So, yeah, we're definitely in felony territory.
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
20, damn.
Now, I heard a rumor on Telegram also that Cantwell is being held in some kind of normal jail, and they're known to do that in New Hampshire, where the jail will hold federal prisoners.
Yeah, Cheshire County Jail has federal prisoners. Frequently, they get paid for it, especially when they're giving the prisoners diesel therapy.
What's that?
Diesel therapy is where they basically just move you from federal prison to federal prison so your family can't visit you and you can't get established.
Like they did to Russ Ulbricht.
Yeah. It's a way of keeping people, especially during trial, keeping them from mounting a defense.
Well, the claim is he's being held in Stratford County Jail, which is all the way across the state from Keene. It's in the Lakes region. So they took him allegedly. I know that's just what Mikey in the Forkfest chat is saying. So if you know anything more about this, you want to comment on Chris Cantwell, should he have been arrested for this? Yeah, you may hate him. You may find his views despicable. I do.
I find his views despicable, but I can't say I hate him.
I don't hate him either. There's more. It is Free Talk Live. You can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms. They're over at discord.lrn.fm, so feel free to join us in any of those, and then you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with me, Ian.
And nobody.
And we got some stuff to talk about, too, coming up. We were talking about Chris Cantwell. We can still continue that discussion here. But actually, I think we've got Dave on the line in New Hampshire. We're going to continue with, or we're going to talk to him here in just a moment. We'll talk more about Cantwell.
Is that Dave next door in New Hampshire?
It may be. We will find out here in just a moment. But I also want to let you know about Edge Wallet. It is where you can secure your freedom with Edge Wallet. It is a cryptocurrency wallet that allows you to hold and sell or trade or buy multiple cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin BTC or Bitcoin Cash or Dash, Ethereum, Monero, Ripple, Stellar, Ravencoin, and others. They're a veteran team that have been building on crypto wallets since 2014. It's user-controlled, you own your own money, and it's available for iOS and for Android devices. So get on over to edge.app. You can learn more about the technology behind Edge. That's EDGE, edge.app. And it's a great wallet. I use it all the time in real life and online. So it's Edge Wallet. As we go to your phone calls and thoughts, Dave is in New Hampshire. Is this Dave Ridley?
Something like that.
Hi, Dave. You're on the air.
Hey, guys. So I went to the Tulsi Gabbard appearance in Keene yesterday.
Okay.
And I kind of do this thing where I haven't really done it since the last primary, but I'll go and I kind of rate each event that I go to on how transparent everybody was and how accessible everybody was and that sort of thing. And I'm gonna be giving the Gabbard folks an A-.
Okay. Why?
Even though I'm probably not going to vote for her, I'm not going to. I don't think I could vote for someone who's as pro gun control as that. But
Are you a registered Democrat?
No, I'd have to switch my residence. That's another problem.
Are you what they call in New Hampshire a undeclared?
No, I'm a registered Republican.
Then it's too late. They will not allow you to switch your registration this close to the primary in New Hampshire. That was locked off.
Wouldn't do it even. Yeah,
that was locked off a while ago.
Probably in this case, but it was interesting. This event probably kind of said it all for me. This guy shows up with a burrito around his neck. And the burrito has the word bomb on it.
What?
I had steak bomb tacos for lunch today, so I can see that.
Yeah, it wasn't. He had not written the word down. The manufacturer wrote it down, and I guess he was trying to make see if I don't know what he said. He was trying to protest the Patriot Act. So everybody just kind of kept their cool, and I got video of this. They just sort of talked to him and said, "Can you just hang on for a second? Can we talk this over before we let you in?" And they didn't search him or anything that I could tell, and then they let him in. So it was kind of a campaign was the impression I got.
Huh. It's kind of a what part of the campaign? I'm sorry, I missed out what you said. There was some packet loss.
It's fairly laid back, fairly relaxed.
Yeah.
She's very serious, but it's a pretty laid back campaign. But I was able to ask her two questions. Once she went in.
How many people were attending at this thing? If you were able to ask two questions, that suggests it might have been a small group.
Well, no, it's more because of the way I do it. There was actually a crowd of about 250 people.
Oh, that's pretty good.
But and she answered a lot of questions to the crowd. But I ask my questions as they go in. And then I go up during selfie time, and I always walk up with a camera, and I don't take a selfie. I ambush interview the candidate, where they're standing there after the event.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm editing the videos, and they'll be up in a day or two probably.
Cool. Well, excellent. So that was all you wanted to share?
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, it was nice to see an anti-war candidate on the list. I wish we had a more pure libertarian candidate like Ron Paul.
Well, and you were commenting on this earlier off the air, Nobody, is the libertarians make a big mistake by not selecting their candidate early. They wait until May to choose their candidate. So you're right, Dave. There are no libertarian candidates in the race right now because they haven't chosen their candidate.
Yeah, I mean, the libertarians are still doing primary things, and that leaves us without I think we'd be better off with a single spokesman to then speak out against the Democrats and the Republicans.
I agree. Dave, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. That's Dave Ridley from RidleyReport.com. He's actually he's hanging out over at your house, Nobody.
It's
over
true.
These last few days, he's our guest as he's in town to do some Ridley stuff. He's moving back to the old Ridley. He had been doing kind of a performance art where he was playing a character, I guess you could say. He was acting as though he were Winston Churchill, fully dressed and with a hat and everything over the most of the last year. And he did admit that it didn't go that well as far as his views were concerned. So he's going back to classic Ridley, which I think is the right choice to make.
I love classic Ridley.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Winston Churchill stuff, but it wasn't as watchable to me as classic Ridley.
Yeah, so I think it's the right move, and looking forward to seeing what he comes up with here as he's visiting in town. So you can bring up whatever you want. We were talking about Chris Cantwell, the former co-host here on Free Talk Live, who we fired him because he became a racist. He never really gave any hint to being a racist previous to when we had worked with him before, but then later sort of became one for whatever reason and went down a real dark path, ended up at the Charlottesville riot protest fight thing that happened back in 2017, got tied up with some criminal charges there, ended up actually getting out after several months on a plea deal to which he pleaded down to a misdemeanor conviction where he wasn't allowed to return to the state of Virginia without a court case.
Right.
And so, I mean, he actually got off pretty well on that
Well,
one.
he held on to his gun rights.
Right. He was looking at felony charges and avoided those.
Yeah.
So, but then, as you pointed out, it's Cantwell. He's got a big mouth. And I guess he thought he could threaten to have sex with a man's wife and get away with it, and apparently that person went to the FBI. Either that or the FBI is somehow monitoring Cantwell's Telegram chats. It's, one or the other.
Yeah.
I suspect there.
Yeah.
But there was some...
It'd be interesting to know which, but yeah. I suspect the guy he was talking to went
Snitched
to the
him
FBI.
Out. Yeah, because there was somebody who said in one of the chats, because, we were talking about this with some folks here locally, who said that the guy who was the alleged victim in this case is also like one of those white supremacist types. So there's been, infighting within the white supremacist movement, because that's just what happens in movements, right? Like there's schisms and disagreements and personality conflicts. And so, Chris Cantwell, whenever he comes into a movement, he's going to cause schisms and disagreements and personality conflicts. So,
oh yeah,
surprise! Somebody went to the feds about something that Cantwell said that he didn't like, and now he's sitting in jail.
Well, Cantwell lived by that sword. Now it looks like he's dying by it.
Yes, indeed. If you want to share your thoughts, you can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. You can take control of the airwaves, bring up whatever's on your mind here. This is Free Talk Live. Coming up, cannabis decrypt. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live. is brought to you by Liberty.menu. It's been a long time that liberty-minded folks have been looking for something like Liberty.menu, and it's finally here. It's been here now a couple of years, and it's a pretty great site. It's a business directory, basically. And I mean, that's not all it does. It also allows people with events and digital content to promote themselves. It's all map-based. You can see where people's businesses are. Listings, of course, can be rated and reviewed. And there's a bit of a social networking aspect that allows you to connect and share with others. However, it's only for individuals who reject the initiation of force and who agree to abide by the ethics of the non-aggression principle. You go to liberty.menu. You can get started there. Code FTL will get you a special Free Talk Live listener badge. It's a great site. I use it. Got a couple different listings up there, a few of them actually. Liberty.menu. It's also where the ForkFest listing is. Now, there's nothing official for ForkFest, but it's an event to which you can RSVP for ForkFest. And we'll tell you more about ForkFest coming up a little bit later on tonight. With you here, it's Ian.
And nobody.
We've been talking about Chris Cantwell, former co-host here on Free Talk Live, arrested for allegedly extorting somebody with a threat of violence. And the FBI has him in custody. Supposedly, you had heard nobody that he may have a hearing today, but somebody else told me he may have one on Tuesday. So I don't know if it ended up happening today or if that is something that is still yet to come. So as we know more about this situation, we will clue you in. I was thinking we need to go look it up on the Pacer system and just see if there's any information there that hasn't gotten out yet. We can do that a little bit later. But if you want to comment, you're welcome to do that. As despicable as Cantwell's views are, I don't think that he committed a crime here.
Yeah, and that's the thing and it's hard to separate. I mean, Cantwell says a lot of really dumb stuff, but he usually manages to stay short of the criminal, and I've never known him to actually be violent in any way.
Well, I mean, he was violent during the Charlottesville protests. I mean, he was in a fight.
Yeah, that's true, although I'm not sure he initiated force.
He says it was defensive.
Yeah, and given Antifa and the way they behave, that certainly seems plausible to me. I haven't seen all the footage, so I couldn't say one way or the other. But it's on the other hand, it's there's a reality that if you hate a significant portion of the human race and members of that portion of the human race are in a position to judge you, they will probably not judge you kindly.
Probably true.
And that's understandable.
And he doesn't have a whole lot of friends left. I mean, he was always somebody who rubbed people the wrong way. I mean, his personality, it actually said on his business card, and I'm not going to say the full word on the radio because it's usually considered inappropriate, but his business card, his old one, before he became a racist, his old libertarian business card said, anarchist, atheist, a-hole.
Yeah.
That was what his tagline was, and that was his personality. And whether that was the real Chris Cantwell or not, I still don't know, who the real Chris Cantwell is, because he's shifted so many times. But one of the things that he has always been has been a lightning rod for controversy within whatever movement that he has associated himself with. So when he came to Keene years ago, he immediately polarized the people here. He got into a fight with, not physical, but a verbal confrontation with Allie Havens, a former co-host here on Free Talk Live, and they kind of squared off against one another on the issue of, being violent or not. And, of course, Cantwell was being watched by the FBI even then, because he was regularly blogging and talking about using violence against the police.
Well, who isn't getting watched by the FBI these days? I know both of us are.
Well, yeah. Well, the FBI has been watching closely of the Free State Project since as early as 2005. Yeah. I mean, if Dave Ridley were sitting in here right now, he could tell you about how when Phil Christiana came to his house back in, I think it was 2005, when Ridley was living with Ridley's one of the earliest movers here as part of this freedom migration. And Christiana was sniffing around back in 2005
Oh, yeah.
Because Ridley posted about it on the old nhfree.com forum. So this same guy who ended up being involved in your arrest, Nobody, years ago when the FBI tried to set you up with a wire to infiltrate the Keene Activist Center here in Keene.
Yeah.
So this guy's been meddling for more than a decade within this movement. And Cantwell's...
I told him, don't you guys have profilers? Who told you I would do this? Crap.
Yeah. Let's go to your phone calls and thoughts here. We got Doug on the line in New York. Doug, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening.
I can't even hear you, Doug. You're going to have to get a better phone. Not going to play with that. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. As we continue here, you can bring up whatever you want. I've told that guy before that, if we can't understand him, if he sounds super tinny like that, it's not gonna fly.
Yeah, you can't interview a man in a rain barrel.
Nope. And that's even worse.
Yeah.
All right, so Chris Cantwell, he's being charged, it looks like up to 20 years possibly in prison for simply sending a telegram message threatening to F a man's wife in front of his kids if he didn't give up some information. And, where do you draw the line between being a character and online play or artwork or whatever versus, and I'm not claiming this was artwork necessarily, but he does admit that he plays a character.
Well, and
online.
He claims to be a comedian, so...
Does he still claim that?
I don't know. Maybe he doesn't. He did kind of get booed off stage a lot.
Yeah.
So
I liked his sense of humor. I mean, that's one of the things I like about Chris.
There were things that he said that were funny, I think. There were things that he said that passed the bounds of my taste significantly. And I haven't heard any of his acts since he went white supremacist. That was it's
hard to listen to him.
Did you hear anything he's said after that? Because
I've talked to him.
I interviewed him.
He's been in the studio here with both of us.
Yeah, it's true. I haven't heard any of his comedy styling since he went all
Campbellton in the chat room says Cantwell went way beyond being a character a long time ago. Well, he still has claimed recently to be playing a character. I've heard him say that within the last 4 or 5 months in an interview of some sort.
And that's true, I think, of everybody who's an activist or a public personality to some extent. To some extent, the exterior that I present as an activist is a character because that, for one thing, it's necessary to protect your inner self and to be somewhat armored when you go out and you know that there's going to be a lot of abuse hurled at you. I don't necessarily wear my heart on my sleeve when I'm doing activism. I do play up my personality somewhat to be a character on the radio. So I understand what he's saying there, and what Alex Jones made the same defense during his divorce proceedings.
And it didn't work for Jones, by the way. I think he lost the divorce proceedings.
Well, the thing is, that's not a win or a lose proceeding. It's everybody loses in divorce. Some people, but
some people lose more than others.
Yeah, and usually men lose more than others. So, he may have done better than he would have by making that argument. That may have been better for him still than making the argument, oh yeah, everything I said is absolutely true.
Yeah, so I think you're right here, Nobody, in your assessment that this isn't a violation of the code. I mean, it says here you have to threaten to injure the person or kidnap a person. And he just threatened to have sex with a woman.
Yeah, and he did not
We're back. It's Free Talk Live. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms at discord.lrn.fm, and that's where you can call in to sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio with us tonight. It's Ian.
And Pope Nobody of the Church of the Invisible Hand.
We've been talking about what's happened to Chris Cantwell, arrested, I presume, in the middle of the night last night. According to Telegram, his last time seen on Telegram was about 2 a.m.
And maybe that's what it is. It occurs to me, maybe we're both clergy, and maybe that's why we can't hate Cantwell, even though he's hateful.
I agree. I don't think,
because I do see him. I see him as redeemable.
I agree.
People can go to the extremes of evil and come back.
I agree with that, and it is my role as a minister of peace to minister peace to people. And Chris Cantwell is one of the people who needs that the most. I mean, I'm of no belief that I'm going to be able to save him. Only he can, save himself from these. These feelings and these beliefs, or whatever it is that he's been carrying. But I know one thing's for sure.
How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know how many.
Just one, but the light bulb has to be willing to change.
Right. Right. But I've gotten a lot of heat for a long time, that because I treat people like Chris Cantwell with kindness, because I treat people like him with love, and I've had people ostracize me because of that, and not just over Chris Cantwell. There's been other activists, like a guy named JP, who is fairly controversial up here with the cop block.
Ain't nobody got time for JP.
I have made time for JP, and
nobody has not.
You do. You have not.
Ain't nobody got time for him.
But I get criticized for these, for being friendly and kind to these people, and it's just what I do. So.
And the thing is, I've interviewed Cantwell on the air, and there was a woman who's very important to me who got really upset at me about doing it, and it's just the thing is, you have to show the absurdity of these things, and you have to show rational argument next to irrational argument if you want to show people reason. And that's the thing, and that's why I detest the guy's political views, but I will interview him, and I will interview him respectfully. And I don't say punch a Nazi,
right.
And I don't hold with throwing commies out of helicopters either.
I agree.
For exactly the same reason. It's not because, and I vehemently disagree with both, but you have a right to be an idiot and to say so.
Absolutely true. If you want to comment, you can join us here. Let's go to the phones. We got Lumpy. He's on our Discord lines. Lumpy, you're on Free Talk Live.
Good evening, guys.
Hey.
Sorry I got you in the background. I hope it's not too noisy there.
You sound fine. Go ahead.
What gets me is that Americans still, and I call them Americans, and it's probably that's probably not, people still tend to believe the created words of the people that work for the establishment, for the government, that falsify over and over all these claims of all these people who say they're being so bad. Look, this doesn't mean that I get along with or subscribe to any of Cantwell's beliefs. I'll tell you what, a long time ago, I knew him. I was acquainted with him.
Was he always a racist?
No,
not at all. As a matter of fact,
I didn't think he was. But
he's been with black women before.
When I was with him, I spent some time with him up at a festival up in Grafton, way up in Grafton, New Hampshire. I had nothing but a great time with this guy. Yeah. He was fantastic.
Well, he was definitely fun, and that's the thing. That's the thing. He still kind of is, and
it wasn't just fun. It
when
was
you
the
hear about a
quality
Nazi, you expect a comic book villain.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's made himself an easy target for people like the FBI who will they take people like, and look, I don't know the story. I don't know the whole conspiracy theories and all that baloney, but they take people and they get them into the system, and they take people who are easy targets, who would be like Sarnav, okay, the Boston bomber. I don't really know if Sarnav really did it. Now, this is going to open up a whole nother can of worms.
I don't know if any of these guys never really did it, from Lee Harvey Oswald to Sirhan to...
They get him into the system, and they use their effects, their terms. They use legal threats. They say they get them into, and they do what you were talking about. What was that? Moving them all around to prison and something therapy there.
Diesel therapy, they call it.
Yeah, so they can't establish a defense. But it's not only that. They'll get them while they're in there, and they're feeling awful because jail is a horrible freaking place to be. Let me tell you, it is.
Oh, I spent a year and a half in Cheshire County Jail. I'll tell you, too.
They'll make up stuff about you in the jail. They'll make up all kinds of stories about people in the jail, and then they'll say, they'll have the jail look at you like you're a crazy person. They'll get you on some kind of drugs, some kind of antidepressant drugs. And then what do you have left?
They won't get me on that.
Right, exactly. They'll say, oh, well, now he's crazy because he's depressed or what have you, right? So now they're making victims, okay? These people are the FBI. I know some young people I've had them as customers. They come to me and I say, well, what are you doing? Well, they were people previously who were bank managers or what have you. And they're going to be into the FBI. They're all excited about getting into the FBI. First thing I've said to them, I say to them, oh, so now you're going to be an enemy of the people and freedom. And they say, oh, no. I say, yes. And I sit and I talk with them, and they say, and I stick with some of them, and I go back to them and tell them exactly what they're talking about and what they're doing and what they're going to be doing. And they don't want to hear it. But I'm the first person that's going to tell them about that.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the FBI is a political goon squad.
Basically, and they're too stupid to know because they look at God and country and think they're doing it. They're stupid idiots. They're like me. I was an enlisted fool. I was an idiot. I was an idiot. I bought into everything I did, and let me tell you, the things I did in the military.
But the thing is,
not one of them for the 8 years fought for your freedom, you idiots.
You don't have to be an idiot to learn what you're taught.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you get taught things as a child. Yeah. You know, and then you have to go back and you have to question them, and you have to question all of them. Well, we were taught a system of nonsense, not just nonsense, isolated nonsense, but a whole system of nonsensical thinking. That's what they taught us. So that we believe nonsense is no surprise, or should be no surprise. Garbage in, garbage out.
And James Whittakind says you're not a minister?
Oh, James Whittakind's an idiot.
Yeah.
Well, he's more than that.
Lumpy,
anyway.
thanks for the call tonight, brother. I appreciate hearing from you. Let's continue. We've got Joe.
I guess my ministerial grace ends at Whittakind.
Joe, you're on Free Talk Live. Well, if somebody comes into your church and tears the thing up, you don't have any obligation to continue to spend time on that person.
Yeah. Although, frankly, I mean, if he showed up and he said, oh, my God, I'm a horrible person, tell me how to be better, I would feel that I had to sit down with him and talk to him.
Forgiveness is is very important. I think it's very important. Joe, go ahead.
That's why I can tolerate Cantwell.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, sorry to get off subject here. I don't know any of the people you guys are talking about.
Hey, pick whatever subject makes you happy. That's what we're here for.
I was listening. We've all heard about the new gun laws going down in Virginia and stuff, and I was listening to a local talk radio show this morning on the way to work, and I guess they're wanting to make it illegal to criticize government officials in Virginia and harder to recall the governor. And
oh, wow.
I don't live in Virginia, obviously. I live in Michigan, but man, this is the kind of stuff that happens when people sit at home. They don't get involved in their local. They don't vote. They don't get involved in their local politics and stuff. And
it's hard though. I mean, people are busy.
It's hard to find anybody worth voting for. There's nobody good out there.
That much is generally true. I mean, we've got some decent ones here in New Hampshire because of the libertarian migration here. We actually have some good choices. But you know,
this is where nobody is.
But voting for people, as nobody pointed out there, is usually a waste of time because you're usually choosing between two crap sandwiches. Joe, if you want to hang on, we can discuss further. It's up to you. Stand by if you'd like. Toll-free number here, 855-450-FREE. And hopefully we're going to be talking to Mark from the Marianas if he's ready to take over the show. We'll find out here in moments. Hour number 2's next. It's Free Talk Live.
Are you sick of hearing the same crap on libertarian podcasts? Inside jokes, interviews of the same person you've heard 50 times? Then you need to listen to the Lava Flow podcast. No nonsense and to the point. Get the information you need and get out. You won't hear the latest libertarian circle jerk news here, but instead hard-hitting anti-statist news with me, Roger Paxton, shooting from the lip. LAVA stands for Libertarian, Anarcho-Capitalist, Voluntarist, and Agrist. And if you think you fit any of these categories, then this is the podcast for you. Listen now at thelavaflow.com to find out what's rustling my jimmies, what's in the news, the latest bad cop, stupid stuff statists are saying, and so much more. You can find out more and subscribe on any podcatcher at thelavaflow.com. That's thelavaflow.com. Part of the Pax Libertas Productions podcast network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want right here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. It's 855-450-3733. We have the Discord call-in line rooms over at discord.lrn.fm. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
So coming up, we can talk about our visit to Concord, New Hampshire today. Nobody, you and I, and Chris Wade, one of our Friday night hosts, went up there today for a very important hearing on a potential decriminalization bill for cannabis. Now, cannabis was already decriminalized the first time back in 2017 here in New Hampshire, but this one takes it even further. We can tell you about what exactly they have planned on the way here, but let's go back to Joe. He's on the line in Michigan. Joe, you were calling about some of the issues that they're facing there in Virginia, where the governor, apparently they're trying to pass some law that makes it harder to recall the governor. And what else do they have besides all the gun control stuff?
They're basically bringing every tool to bear because right now people are bringing every they're looking for any way to get rid of this governor. Mm-hmm. People, I mean, he crossed a major line. He crossed a line that to a lot of people means war. And people don't understand. 30,000 murders a year in the United States. Something like 10,000 of them involve guns. Okay, how many people are going to die in a civil war? How many people are going to die when the ATF is knocking on people's doors and people are answering with guns ablazing? Because somebody's going to do that,
Joe, what do you think?
I think one of them was I don't know all the details of the law, but they were making it basically trying to criminalize criticizing the government officials. As far as I know, most states and the federal level, it might be a federal crime. I mean, you can't publicly threaten public officials anyway. And basically,
well, you can't publicly or privately threaten anybody legally.
Yeah, it's not.
As Chris Cantwell just learned,
it's true.
This isn't threatening. This is just being critical of policy. Basically, they want to extend red flag laws to any criticism. And man, like they always say, they go after the Second Amendment first, then they go after the First Amendment.
Yeah. And really, they're going after both at the same time because there's an ongoing battle against everything in the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment in a big way, the Fifth Amendment, and they're using torture.
I mean, there are people who think libertarians are extremists. I mean, are you going to be, if you're a registered libertarian or whatever, whatever party, I don't know, whatever third or fourth party, or you're independent, who's to say that you could end up on some list, I mean, this isn't China, man. This is Virginia, for Pete's sakes. And I don't know, man. This is just some scary stuff. The government does some messed up stuff. But
do you remember Goldwater? Barry Goldwater?
Yeah, my mom and him voted for him, but
yeah. Well, he said that
I wasn't born then.
He wasn't right about everything, but he was right about a lot of things. And he said moderation in defense of liberty is no virtue, and extremism in defense of freedom is no vice.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, he was, if you look back at history, he got black or tarred and feathered, and they mischaracterized him. Of course, that was before the internet, when people could find out a lot of.
Who got tarred and feathered?
Well, they basically made him look like a nut job. They try, his chances of ever, holding any higher office than what he had.
Yeah, but, and it's unfortunate because, he could have. Poverty was just, basically, if he had won, one of the big government wars on poverty would not have happened, and there would be a lot less poverty in the world. Because anything that the government makes war on, all of a sudden, everybody can get it.
War on poverty just trapped people in poverty. It made it where people couldn't get out of it.
That's true. And look what the war on drugs did.
The war on drugs. You got a lot of collateral damage because you basically created a black market. The same thing they did with Prohibition. A lot of the gun laws we got now came out of the Prohibition era, and that was a problem they started, and they just made it worse. But
I'm a drug war felon, and so it's like I'll never have a good job again. Unless I manage to start a business, but in terms of being an employee, it's just not going to happen. Nobody will ever trust me with anything.
This is Orwellian stuff, man. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where, like they have that social credit system over in China.
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to be before we have something similar to that here?
Well, we do.
I mean,
criminal records for trivial offenses, for offenses that don't violate the rights of another, is a social credit system, and it is used as a drug war felon. I can tell you it's used to exclude me from a lot of different parts of the economy. It's used to take away my drug rights, my gun rights, and my drug rights, because damn it, you have a right to self-medicate.
Thanks for the call tonight, Joe. Anything else you want to share?
No, I just, I just wish the libertarians were the party that, I wish we had more viable options. Other countries, they got 3 or 4 political parties, and the big parties have to form coalitions, and they can't just rule like they do in the United States. And, I guess that's a pipe dream, but
you see,
thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I vote
Thank you.
libertarian because that's how I can contribute to their activism. Okay? And I think their activism is valuable because I think it brings people closer to anarchy. But I don't think they should be an anarchist organization. I think they should be a minarchist organization, because an anarchist organization which woke up one morning and realized that it was a political party would probably commit suicide. it would cease to exist as an organization because an anarchist political party doesn't make sense. A minarchist political party makes sense. And if you accept it as being that, then it becomes a great recruiting grounds for anarchists that are friendly to them without agreeing with them on everything. So that's my surprisingly very controversial view of the Libertarian Party. And there's people who just want to insist it's the worst thing on earth, and because it's not pure anarchist. And I'm like, it's a political party, so it's not supposed to be pure anarchist. Okay, so accept a thing for what it is, and if you want something different to exist, then start the anarchist party. If that makes sense to you. It doesn't make sense to me.
Hey, Joe, thanks for the call. Really appreciate hearing from you. And yeah, free speech is important, and I suspect that if they do pass those laws, the ACLU will likely challenge them, and they will probably be found unconstitutional. Because you are absolutely, it is your right to criticize government agents in the United States. That is one of the nice things about being here is you can say the emperor has no clothes, and you probably shouldn't be thrown in prison for it, generally.
Yeah, the ACLU, I like them. I
like the New Hampshire one a lot more than I like the national one.
Definitely true.
There's more coming up here, 855, 450 free. We may be talking to Mark Edge from the Marianas coming up in moments. This is Free Talk. This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want here, although I don't know if the Discord lines... I don't know if Mark is going to be ready to take Discord calls all the way over in the Mariana Islands, but technically he should be prepared for it. How prepared he is, I don't know.
Well, Mark should be technically prepared, but
he forgot the network cable. That's one of the problems that we found out at the beginning of the show, is that he forgot to plug his network device into the router, which is usually going to be the problem that all the issues stem from. But he's here now, Mark.
Can you hear me?
We hear you, and you actually sound pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds like you plugged everything in.
Well, yes. I'm not going to take the total blame here. Something weird was happening, and I know Ian pushed a button somewhere. I cannot be completely blamed. Don't you people do it to me.
I might have been sending bad audio out as well. But we got all the issues ironed out here. Our callers are done. I wanted to finish up with that last caller that we had there as well, make sure he had a chance to get his thoughts out. And so the original intention was that you were going to take over Thursdays, which is actually Fridays where you are, because it's the morning over in the Marianas. What time is it there right now?
Right, the U.S. Mariana Islands, where the United States Day begins. The time is, so right now it is 11:21. But I think the best way to describe it for people, 11:21 a.m., is that at midnight here, it's 9 a.m. in Eastern Time.
Right.
So when you're beginning your workday, we're ending
15
the clock
hours.
day.
It's 15 hours ahead.
Right.
Have you considered that very bad things could happen if the U.S. and China ever go to war? You would absorb you would be the closest U.S. territory to them, right?
Yeah, I would think that's true, but I don't think there's going to be a land war anymore. I mean, exactly probably what would happen. There's nothing strategic here. So probably what would happen is if there was, at the end of it all, maybe there would be some territories traded as there was at the end of World War II, if that at all. And, I don't suspect anything would happen, anything more than Hawaii or California.
Well, I don't think anybody should make a decision as to where they're going to live based on what wars might, transpire that aren't imminent.
Well, I would say that Ludwig von Mises and von Hayek made very good decisions when they decided to skip Europe ahead of the Nazis moving into Austria, because I think their lives might have been much shorter and less pleasant had they spent them under the tender mercies of the Nazis, and they agreed.
All right. So, Mark, are you prepared to take over the show?
Sure. I wanted to talk to you guys briefly about this Cantwell situation. Can we do a merge here?
Yeah, sure.
While we do this. So you guys were talking about
I'll stay on with you if you want.
Thank you. I appreciate the big sacrifice there, Pope Nobody. So Christopher Cantwell has been arrested by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigations.
That's right.
For a pretty dubious threat. I mean, he didn't. The claim is that he threatened
as threats go, it was pretty weak.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say he was going to rape this guy's wife. He said he was going to F the guy's wife.
Right, and that
which
could
easily
be
threatening to cuck him, basically.
Right.
It could be easily considered, that somehow Cantwell believed in his mind he would seduce the wife, and that the woman would make the very poor choice as to have sex with him in front of her children.
In which case, his lawyer can argue both that the threat wasn't illegal and that the threat wasn't believable.
It's not believable. But I'd like to point out that there is a man named James Whittakind, you mentioned him a little earlier on the air, who has threatened me for 6 years on the air. And I have
the
FBI's done nothing.
In text, he's threatened you in every way possible.
Right, and I've sent that information to the FBI. The FBI spoke with him, according to Whittakind. I don't know. I mean, nobody's given me this information. They don't tend to communicate well with victims, as it were. But for whatever reason,
tend to communicate well with victims that they consider enemies.
And that may very well be the case. I don't know what the answer is, but I will say that the FBI was Johnny on the spot to get this white supremacist, to arrest Cantwell for this white supremacist. He, however, will do nothing. They, however, will do nothing against Whittakind, who has, the list of threats is explicit and long.
Well, remember, the government has no obligation to protect you.
Right. And so the idea that Cantwell has done something terrible, is Cantwell a terrible person? Yes, the news media certainly has painted him to be a terrible person. I think he's distasteful, would be the way that I would describe him. But regardless of that, the FBI clearly isn't a bunch of paladins of truth and justice. They're just going out doing whatever's convenient for them.
That's right.
This is a ruse for them.
I can't say you're wrong about that. That's absolutely true. And it does go to point.
This is Trump's America.
It wouldn't have been any different under Obama. These bureaucrats were all working for Obama.
Right. The threats occurred under Obama, too. There's the FBI is the FBI. That's how they act.
Yeah. Just because they change out some head of an agency doesn't mean the fundamental bureaucracy has changed in any way, shape, or form.
That's definitely true, because they're going to do what they're going to do. Right. According to their interpretation of the book, which is whatever interpretation is convenient to them at the moment.
The Republicans would have you believe that this is just a problem with some leadership over at the FBI. We're not against the entire, bureau or anything like that, and that's fine. They can be for or against anything they want, but the FBI has been an out-of-control, unprofessional organization for a very long time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it should be dissolved. There's no constitutional authority for its existence.
The idea that now that they're being used as to settle bickering disputes between white supremacists is laughable to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tax dollars are hard at work.
Right. I would also point out that we're the number 26th most important talk show in the nation. The number 25th, this guy Ben Shapiro. He had a threat leveled against him, and the FBI took care of that within a week. So apparently they can do their job when they wish, but for some reason they do not wish to do it for Free Talk Live. Maybe it's because at the Mulhere incident, I called the FBI unprofessional when they tried to assassinate those last three holdouts.
And this is the same organization that had 10 vehicles following me Well, at one point when I was selling a quarter pound of weed, but they don't have time or energy to investigate someone threatening the innocent children of a talk radio host.
Well, and don't forget also that very same FBI that was investigating you for selling a quarter pound of weed had a heroin dealer that they let go so they could get to you, so they could try to have you infiltrate the Keene Activist Center, a peaceful activist center. They were willing to let a heroin dealer back out onto the streets.
Yeah.
So that gives you some idea of their priorities. Coming up, Mark and Alexander taking over from the Mariana Islands, the U.S. Mariana Islands, for the very first half an episode, better late than never, of Free Talk Live from the future. More coming up.
The next generation wallet is coming from Divvy. In just a few taps, you'll be able to send, earn, spend, and exchange digital money in seconds. Send money around the globe with only a swipe. Instantly exchange between Divvy, Bitcoin, and fiat right in the mobile app, and withdraw directly to your bank account. Divvy already offers the first one-tap solution for earning passive income with crypto. Multi-tiered masternodes allow everyone to partake in the network. Visit DivvyProject.org. DivvyProject.org. Sure. Free Talk Live, coming to you from the U.S. Mariana Islands. It's Mark with you.
And Alex.
And thanks to Ian and Nobody for catching my slack there. The first hour and a half of the show was supposed to be from here, but there was some miscommunication and some technical problems, and I think we've got those ironed out, and our plan is to continue to do radio programs here Thursday evenings, 7 to 10, and right now, of course, it's the next day, so it's Friday at 11:38 a.m. right now. I'm looking out over the beautiful mountains of the Marianas here. What's that mountain up there that I'm looking at, Alex? Is that Tapachao?
It's another one.
It's a different one.
Contrary to popular belief, we are not going to go underwater when the ocean levels rise.
Yes, that's right. When and if ocean levels rise, there's plenty of topography left here at the Mariana Islands. So I guess I've been here close to a week now.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I've got to say that I like it very much. I don't have a return ticket, and I'm not intending to return to the United States, right away. So, there's some advantages to moving here, especially from a residency standpoint. Alex, the only way to get off of the rolls of the IRS is to either give up your citizenship and move to like Liberia or something, or to become a resident of one of the U.S. territories. Moving to a different country and just living there isn't going to do it. You have to actually go through the process of expatriating and getting rid of your citizenship and all that stuff. Because when you move to Austria or whatever, you still, according to the IRS, owe them money. But once you go to one of the territories, then things change with the IRS, right?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. The U.S. is pretty much the only country in the world that claims its citizens as its tax sheep no matter where they live around the world. In a normal country, UK, Canada, Germany, pick your country. If you move to Cayman Islands, Bahamas, some tax-free jurisdiction, you can get your residency there, give up your previous tax residency, and escape. However, in the case of the U.S., they claim your worldwide income as your own. The one exception...
It's like the only country in the world that does that. Some people say North Korea, too, but, how many people are working for, outside of North Korea and making money and sending it back? I have no idea. So basically, the United States is the only jurisdiction that claims your labor when you are all outside of the country. It's one thing to say, hey, when you're working inside our little polygon on the map, then you owe us money. But it's another thing entirely to say, once you leave our polygon, serf, you will continue to work for us because you are our serf and the world is our domain.
Well, it's even worse than that. You don't even have to have ever been to the U.S. Just having the citizenship, maybe your parents had it, or you got it through some other method. If you have that citizenship, you've never been there, you've never used any government services, they still claim all your income as their own. It's pretty unbelievable, and there's only one way to escape it while keeping your citizenship, and that's to move to a U.S. territory.
So, I have moved to a U.S. territory at this point. What's it take to get residency? Now, obviously, things are going to be slightly different in places like Samoa, American Samoa, and Puerto Rico, and a variety of these things. But what's it take to get residency outside the United States in one of the territories?
Yeah, so there's many different ways you can get residency, and different jurisdictions and parties define residency differently. In this case, I think most people will be concerned with IRS residency. So for the IRS to consider you a resident of a territory and give you that territorial protection where they no longer are entitled to your income, you need to spend about 6 months in the jurisdiction and pass a few tests.
183 days.
Exactly.
Right.
Bona fide residency test, physical presidency test, among the closer connections test. So it's not as simple as just you move over here, you spend 6 months, but your wife, your kid, your house, your doctor, everything else is back at your home in LA. That's not enough. You need to show that you have stronger ties to here than anywhere else, and there's a lot of information on the IRS website about how to do that. This isn't a tax advice program, but it's certainly doable.
Yeah, I think that basically you have to move as opposed to just sort of pretending to move. There are people, for instance, that could, let's say, live in Miami and then have a private jet and fly to San Juan and work. How long does it take to fly from Miami to San Juan? 3 hours, 2.5 hours, especially if you have a private jet. No big deal. So, Monday morning they fly in at 6 a.m. They're there at work at 9 a.m. They spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights in their condo in San Juan, and then they they clock out at noon on Friday, and then they fly back to Miami to spend the weekend with the family. That is probably what occurred that caused the IRS to say, no, you've got to be, it's got to be more firm than that. But basically, if you live in a place and you don't have a private jet and you can't afford, then, more or less you got to spend 183 days out of the year here. I would recommend, getting the cell phone. You got to have a cell phone once you move here anyway. So it's,
well, I think you mentioned San Juan, Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah.
The big difference between there and here is that you probably actually want to live here, right? Many people, they just go to San Juan for the tax benefits, but they have a lot of trouble. The crime rate's a little higher than they would like. Everything is conducted in Spanish primarily, so it's hard to integrate with the local community or even feel as if you're a part of it at all. Here, it's the opposite. Everyone's friendly. They speak English. Quality of life is pretty good, weather is beautiful, and you just feel more free. So I think that is one of the big appeals here, is that you might come thinking, I only want to spend the minimum amount of time here. But after you arrive, you quickly realize, actually, I want to spend all my time here.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't spent the full year. I can't say that, but I can say that by the first day, I was beginning to think, yeah, I can do this. Not a problem. So what are the benefits, though? What are the things that one can expect as far as real sort of tangible freedoms that are more than the United States? Because, people are going to be asking this question. They're going to be wondering, why would I want to do that? And I would say one of the reasons is there's just far fewer voters here. Therefore, also, there's far fewer laws. So in New Hampshire, which was rated at some points the freest state in the union and is currently sitting at number 2, according to Freedom in the 50 States, there's close to 1,000 bills that are up for vote every year from the legislature. Whereas here, how many bills were up this year?
It was a little around 40 or thereabouts.
40 bills. Right. You could conceivably, as a single individual, read all the bills that are proposed and you could try to talk to your legislature. Now, I don't know how successful that's going to be or whatever, but imagine they're going to listen a little more when there's so few voters compared to legislators. So that's one thing. It's a small government. That's what we want, right? We want a small government. It's a small government.
Yeah, keep in mind, senators are elected with as few as 600 votes here. So the people are really in charge. Furthermore, if there's a law you don't like, you can repeal it by referendum, or if there's a law you do like, you can add it by referendum. And unlike a big state like California, New York, which also have some referendum capabilities, you don't need millions of dollars to pay people to go getting signatures. You could just stay at the post office and collect the necessary signatures yourself in a relatively short amount of time. So here the people really are in charge, which is a really refreshing change.
Yeah, and as far as freedoms go, I guess we can say that one thing is that marijuana is legal, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So, not every state in the union is marijuana legal, but it happens to be. Talk Live. You can give us a call, talk about whatever's on your mind. It looks like I can take some calls. It's Mark with you.
And Alex.
And we're coming from the U.S. Mariana Islands. And kind of the goal here today, we certainly may very well get to some other show prep, but, and you can call in and bring up whatever you want. But today is to just talk about what my experiences are here at the Mariana Islands. And I am surprised that I do actually feel freer. So, Alex, can you give me some ideas to why you think I might be feeling freer? Like, what's made this happen?
Yeah, I think it's just the lack of a federal presence certainly is one thing. You don't see any federal buildings or anything like that in your face, whereas in any major U.S. city, you just drive around. There's just these monstrosities sticking up everywhere. In addition, I think it's the police presence is pretty minimal. You don't see police pulling people over. You don't see people getting arrested. You don't see government doing much at all. They're very island life, relaxed. They like to just, enjoy life and not harass people. So I think you really feel that you don't notice something until it's gone. And I think what you're noticing is the lack of government experience and just the happiness that you can see in the faces and lives of all the citizens as a result.
So with this abbreviated police presence, crime must be rampant.
Yeah, I mean, if you went to government schools your whole life, you'd probably think something like that. But in reality, I think there's been about 4 or 5 murders since 1995.
Since 1995. So we're talking 25 years. So there's basically a murder every 5 years. Now, when you consider how small the population is, that's probably, it might put Mariana Islands up there high. I have no idea. But, most of these murders seem to have had to do with some kind of Chinese mafia called the Triads.
Yeah, it's sort of like any U.S. city, right? In Chicago, most of it's gang-related. Same thing here. So a normal person has pretty much zero chance of being harmed in that regard.
Yeah, it seems like, for whatever reason, these might be people who took out loans or escaping gambling debts or in some way or another. I don't know. I've never made a mob angry, so I don't know what it is that these folks might have done. But even the murders that do occur appear to be limited to a certain sphere, is what I'm saying. So police presence here is abbreviated, but I think that they'll, they do enough to keep things calm, right? Like it just kind of goes to show you don't need to over police.
I wouldn't even attribute it necessarily to the police. I think it's, you just have good people around, you won't have problems.
It may be that too. I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you violent crime certainly is low. I hear that it's not a great idea to, leave things out where they could be stolen, but I haven't had any experience like that at this point that I can speak to one way or the other. And it's probably never a good idea to, say not lock your car or something anyway, especially in a tourist area. So what are some of the other ways that you would say that Mariana Islands is freer? It's the freest part of the United States. So I would say taxes are a big deal. Once you can establish residency, you begin paying your income taxes to the Mariana Islands rather than to the United States government. And that's an important distinction for libertarians and Quakers and people who believe in peace generally, because the Mariana Islands doesn't have the death penalty and they don't prosecute wars, which means that your tax money never goes to kill people.
Yeah, which is a huge deal. There's nowhere else you can go that's not a U.S. territory where you can escape the IRS without giving up your citizenship. And escaping the IRS is about more than just not paying taxes for many people. It's about an ethical stand of not fighting senseless wars, invading countries, and doing other unethical things. And it doesn't just stop at the IRS. Are you against the drug war? Do you want to stop funding that? Come to the Mariana Islands. Are you against a federal prison? Come to the Mariana Islands. Whatever your beef is with federal funding, the best way to solve that is moving to a U.S. territory such as the Mariana Islands.
Let's go to the phones. We got Vernon calling in from Louisiana. Vernon, you're on Free Talk Live.
So, boy, first, Mark, I am so glad to hear you during the wintertime. It's usually my Mark break, and I am just so glad to hear you on the air. Thank you so much for going through the trouble to broadcast live from there. I wanted to...
before you go on, we should talk about that a little bit. I intend here in February to begin broadcasting even more. So, at this point, it's 1 day a week, and it's going to go up from there.
Well, I hope that you will do that dual thing again where you're live with Ian, and you all just have such a good combination.
Big surprises coming in February.
So you all make the Mariana Islands sound like the best thing since sliced bread. I was looking online, and y'all have the best weather on earth. But one of my concerns is that there's no representation in the United States Congress. Like, they don't get a real vote. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Yeah, you're pretty much correct. The question I would ask in response is what difference does it make? I mean, do you have representation in the United States Congress now? I mean, really?
Well, right. We can always spin it around. And is it a wasted vote, or is it, am I really, does it matter? You're right. But, but still, you're one for one. Do you really not pay any federal taxes whatsoever? There's no Social Security tax. There's no income tax. It's just basically whatever tax they might have there on the Mariana Islands.
There is a Social Security type tax, like a FICA tax, because the government claims that's not a tax, right? We're just helping save for you. So that is the only one, but there's no income tax. Is the Mariana
Islands that's doing it, or is it the United States government?
I'm not fully sure, but I believe there's a program with the Mariana Islands that then gives it back to the federal government. So it's kind of like sharing type thing. But I have to look more into that.
So I guess if you believe that you have representation, because obviously you've chosen to continue to live in the United States. So because of that, just like Puerto Rico, just like Washington, D.C., just like any of these so-called territories, it's like you basically are still paying that tax. But yet, in our current form of government, which is supposedly going to be considered representation by your Congress people, you don't actually have a vote. I guess if you believe in that, that's my point. But obviously, on Free Talk Live, it doesn't really matter, right? So
yeah, for me, what I would say in response to that is that my vote never mattered anyway. Right. So most of the time when I voted for people, whether it's representatives or senators or president or anything like that, the guy I voted for didn't even win, or the person I voted for didn't even win. So obviously I'm not represented in that standpoint. If it was the person that I voted for won, they didn't win by one vote. So my vote didn't make a difference in that election either. And I've contacted my Congress critters on a pretty regular basis, meaning more than once a year on issue after issue, because I'm on several lists, and, I'll let them know what I'm thinking. I don't have a problem doing that. Well, It's not like they change their vote because of my email, or when I call, they don't answer the phone. So I would say the United States federal government has shown itself over the course of my 49 years on this planet as being wholly unresponsive to my wishes. So the idea that I currently don't vote on those representatives, I haven't lost any sleep.
I would push back on the idea that you need a representative to have any say. We don't have a representative that can vote in Congress, but we just got 3,000 visas exclusive to the Mariana Islands for construction workers. Nowhere in the U.S. has ever done that before. We don't even have a voting member. We're doing things that nowhere else is doing.
Yeah, I'd say the governor here amounts to a representative and is more powerful.
I can only imagine how limited the labor pool is there, so of course that makes sense. Anyways, listen, I just wanted to make that point, and I appreciate the discussion. And Mark, it's so good to have you on the air. Thank you all.
Thank you, Verdon. Appreciate the call. 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE, as in Free Talk Live. So, Alex, I think we should go on and talk a little bit more about kind of some of the freedoms that you can enjoy here in the Mariana Islands, and give people some insight into some of the conversations we've had this week, because it may seem like I've been off the air, but things have been happening behind the scenes, haven't they?
Indeed.
Yeah, lots and lots of stuff. The number is 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE, or you can use the Discord lines at discord.freetalklive.com.
Have you heard of LibertyCon? LibertyCon is not only a convention with great speakers like Whole Foods CEO and co-founder John Mackey and Nobel Prize winner Vernon Smith, but it's also unique because you get a chance to network with more than 70 pro-liberty organizations, one-on-one for the purpose of career advancement, business, and internship opportunities. April 3rd through 5th in Washington, D.C. You can learn more by visiting libertycon.com and use code FTL for a $10 discount on your registration. That's libertycon.com.
Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, coming to you from the U.S. Mariana Islands. It's Mark with you.
And Alex.
And yeah, it's bright and early here. It's noontime at the Mariana Islands. It may be 9 p.m. Eastern where you are if you're listening live, but here it's noon. That's because we start the day at the U.S. Mariana Islands. We start America's Day. So you can call in, you can talk about whatever is on your mind, per usual, here on Free Talk Live. But we've been talking about my move, me, Mark, the host of Free Talk Live, to Mariana Islands, and Alex has been sitting in. He sat in on a show in New Hampshire, and he's decided to sit in here, give me a little help. And we're just talking about the different ways that we believe that the Mariana Islands is, Northern Mariana Islands as it's called, this, what is it, Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands is the official name. But I like U.S. Mariana Islands because it just tells people what it is. And they some ways that it's being that it's more free. So we were talking about taxes, and I want to get back into taxes. But Alex, let's talk about the ways that that one could live off grid here.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best ways to be free is to live on your own off grid, and I think the Mariana Islands is pretty unique in one's ability to do that. You have a year-round growing season, a beautiful sun for solar energy, and abundant rainwater to collect. So it's totally possible to get some land, build a house, set up some solar, and just live off grid.
I mean, yeah, it seems like most every day has some sun in it, and I would think that that solar panels with some batteries would probably do you quite well. I mean, almost every day it rains too, but it's usually brief and then it's over.
Yeah, I mean, You're from New Hampshire, right?
Right.
At least recently.
It can rain for 3 days there.
How's your growing season?
Well, you got to be careful because Memorial Day is kind of when you put in, but hopefully you don't get a freeze after Memorial Day. Sometimes people will try to go a little before that. So, maybe mid-May you might try, but you got to be careful, especially if you've got like tomato plants or something that freeze easily.
Yeah, so not so good for living off-grid, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
What about in terms of sunlight?
Well, those days get longer throughout the year. So I would say that we probably have longer days in New Hampshire than the Mariana Islands does during the summertime. Because in the Mariana Islands, basically the sun rises somewhere around 6:30 every day and sets somewhere around 8 every day. I mean, the deviation is very small.
Which is, I think, ideal for any type of farming. No freezes to come in, no solar in the winter because there's no sun. So I think for people looking to live off the grid, you want sustainable solutions. And the Mariana Islands seems to be one of the most sustainable in that regard. And
this used to be the farming area for Japan. So if you really wanted to do the whole off-the-grid farming thing, that's something that one can do. I did it for some time. I don't have any intention of doing it anytime soon, but it's something that you could do. And there's a lot of land available for that, especially in places like Tinian, right?
Yeah. Yeah, land can be very affordable. Even beachfront land can go as low as $35 a square meter. And that's pretty low compared to Hawaii, California, or other coastal places in the U.S.
Yeah, obviously, I'm going to have to head back at some point. I have Free Talk Live is scheduled to go to LibertyCon this year. Check them out at LibertyCon. I think it's .org. If I'm not libertycon.com. There, it's they have a big event. It's going to probably be the biggest Liberty event this year, from what I'm seeing. It's at the Marriott Marquis in Washington D.C. It's from April the 3rd through the 5th, and it's going to be very, very well done. Ticket price is quite low. So you can use coupon code FTL to get $10 off your ticket, but $10 off is like it's more than 10%. The last time I looked at their ticket price, it's probably going to go up as time goes by. But by go up, I don't think it's going to peak out over $100 for a regular one. So adult ticket is $99 right now. A student ticket is $49. By the way, they do have travel scholarships is what they're calling it. Sorry, forgot that word. Travel scholarship for students. So they can actually pay your way in hotel depending on the situation. Go check it out, libertycon.com, libertycon.com, coupon code FTL. So the tax situation here in the Mariana Islands, the last caller, Vernon, brought up something I think that's worth mentioning is that there is some relationship to the Social Security Administration here on Mariana Islands if you're a wage earner. And now if you open your own business or whatever, then I guess you're probably on your own. I don't know how all that works. I haven't filed a tax form here, and frankly, I'm not that excited about the notion of doing it. But yeah, I think that by and large, taxes, even when you do file their version of an income tax form here in Mariana Islands, they have discounts, right? How does that work?
Yeah, so essentially, keep in mind, the U.S. Mariana Islands, they negotiated when they joined the U.S. Unlike other territories,
they've got a contract.
Yeah.
So unlike a state, like what's a state have that's so fantastic that the Mariana Islands doesn't have? The ability to vote in elections like a senator and representative, true. But so the negotiations go on with the Mariana Islands, the United States, and we get lots of stuff.
Yeah. The other territories, they're mainly conquered or spoils of war. So they weren't able to sit down with the federal government and say, let's work out a deal. They didn't read the art of the deal. The current governor, Torres, he's a good friend of Trump, so he's very familiar with the negotiation tactics like that. So the CMI was able to negotiate a great deal, and one of the things the federal government said in exchange is, we'll give you some tax autonomy, but you have to mirror our code. So keep that in mind. The CMI code mirrors the federal government code, all 10 million words of it. And the benefit they have is they can give rebates. So for different types of income categories and brackets, you get different rebates. But the best way to look at it is the highest, worst rebate is 50%. So if you're making millions and millions of dollars, you'd pay 50% in income tax what you would have paid in a no-income state like Florida or Texas, which is a tremendous savings. But it gets even better. The lower your income is, the higher the rebate. For people making $100,000 or less in income, they get 70% back what they would have paid the federal government in a no-income tax state. And the best bracket for those 20% or less get 90% back.
Right, that's worth pointing out because there's not that many no-income tax states. So when you're talking about an income tax state, which the vast majority of them are, then that 70% rebate is even higher.
Exactly. And keep in mind the cost of living here is much lower. The median income is $15,000. So the majority of residents are getting a 90% rebate on what they would have paid had they lived in a no-income tax state like Texas or Florida. So that's phenomenal tax savings for the average American.
Yeah, as far as taxes go, there's sales tax, right? How much is the sales tax here?
There's no sales tax.
No sales tax.
No property tax.
Right, and in New Hampshire, there's a property tax, and it's pretty high. That's pretty much how they fund everything. But here, no property tax at all.
Yep.
Now, U.S. citizens can't own property outright here in the Mariana Islands, but they have 55-year leases, which is most people's lifetimes.
Well, they can own condos that aren't on the ground floor. So that is a way you can own property as a non-person of Northern Mariana descent.
More about the U.S. Mariana Islands and sort of our experiences, because, Alex, you're a relatively new mover here, too.
Yep.
Yeah. Here in a moment. The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE, as in Free Talk Live. Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. It's Mark with you.
And Alex.
The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE, as in freedom. And we're talking about my recent move to the U.S. Mariana Islands. Alex, actually, you moved not too long ago either, right?
Yeah, I moved over in December.
And I mean, as far as most of the reasons that we came here is that we're looking to find more freedom, and we're looking to start a cryptocurrency cluster, is the term you're calling it. So what's your vision there?
Yeah, so what I noticed is that most industries around the world cluster in a few geographic locations. And the reason they do that is because there's economies of scale. They're able to talk with the government, and they're able to iterate faster as a result of having a bunch of people all on the same page in a small geographic area. So I looked around and realized that there aren't really any good places to create a crypto cluster in the United States, primarily because of the IRS regulations make cryptocurrencies very difficult to use. If you're going to go buy a pack of gum with cryptocurrencies, you got to file a capital gains report because you technically realized capital gains when you made that purchase. So it seemed to me that the only way to create a crypto cluster would be to go to one of the U.S. territories where you have more tax autonomy and you can get rid of that very difficult paperwork hurdle. So I looked around at the various territories, and it seems that the Northern Mariana Islands was uniquely suited for such things. You have a low tax government, it's very responsive, and it's right in Asia Pacific, which is one of the fastest growing regions for cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't just decide, you didn't come to Mariana Islands and say, I think it's really pretty here. Let's start some project to move people here. Like so many people have started. By the way, if you go to my Facebook page, The Move Here Project, you will see a list of projects like this that have, passed through time, and most of which there's really nothing has come up with, or happened with. What about, you were kind of looking at New Hampshire at one point, right? And then you just decided not to do that.
Yeah, I was just looking at New Hampshire because I saw there was a lot of good crypto activism there, some companies, AnyPay and others, working to create some solutions. But it just seemed that the federal government hurdle was too much to overcome. As long as you have to file those capital gains report every time you purchase something, it just seems unlikely that cryptocurrencies will take off. Because all the people who want to be tax compliant, myself included, we're just hesitant to spend cryptocurrencies because we don't want to deal with the paperwork.
And so you found another jurisdiction where you feel like the whole situation's a lot better, right?
Yeah, I noticed that the Northern Mariana Islands is very accessible government, very responsive, and they're looking for new ideas to generate revenue and attract businesses. So it seemed like a great location. Great weather. Everything is great. I couldn't believe it. I'm still waiting to find the downside.
Well, I mean, I can find a few downsides for you if you'd like them. I am a pessimist by nature.
Let's hear it.
Well, it's remote. So if you want to bebop back and forth between the United States and here, you've got family or something like that, there's a lot of people that would want to do that. Then, getting here is no less than a 20-something hour trip, right?
Well, it just depends where you're coming from. If you are in where most people live, Asia, it's actually pretty close by.
I see. Most of my audience is in the United States.
Well, if you want to grow, you're going to have to change that because most of the people in the world are in Asia.
It's true. Most of the people are in Asia.
Asia needs freedom too, right?
And there's Japan, Korea. These are huge. This is a huge tourist destination for Japanese and Koreans and Chinese. You find them all over the place here at all the restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the Northern Mariana Islands is within 5 or 6 hours of most of the largest cities in the world. Right, the biggest city in the world, Tokyo, is 3 hours away. 30 million people in the Tokyo metro area. Hong Kong, massive city close by as well. Seoul, southern Chinese cities like Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and others are all right in the area. So in terms of geographic location, I'd argue it's actually much better than some place like New Hampshire. I mean, New Hampshire barely has an international airport.
Well, I mean, New Hampshire's airport's bigger than the one that's here, if we're going by that standard. I mean, obviously, there are no domestic flights besides Guam that really come into the Saipan airport. I mean, all of them are from territories not from the U.S. mainland. So, but I mean, I wouldn't take any shots at the size of. I wouldn't go comparing airport sizes if I were Saipan.
I'm not comparing sizes. I'm comparing flight lift. The ability to go from one airport to another major airport. I mean, we have flights. Look at the top 3 airports in the world. You have Seoul's airport, you have Hong Kong's airport, and you have Singapore's airport. Those 3 are top 3 pretty much every year. We have 2 of the biggest, best airports on our roster. What does New Hampshire have? Boston? Maybe one Canadian city if they're lucky.
I would have to go look it up, but I'm sure they've got New York City, which is a pretty big one. I'm sure they got Chicago. I wouldn't be surprised if they had L.A. in the top 10 American cities. So, yeah, it's a fair point. But again, probably the American audience is thinking about American destinations, just a guess. So we were, as far as freedoms that one experiences on the ground here, we did do some talking with some folks regarding sort of taxation with cryptocurrency. So let's talk about what happened in Nevada first. Can you explain the cryptocurrency taxation scheme that went on in Nevada?
Yeah, sure. I'm no tax expert, but I can give you the...
but you read it.
The layman's version of it. It's a very short bill and very efficient. Essentially what it does is it redefines cryptocurrency. What is cryptocurrency? What kind of asset is it? It's not clear. And different federal agencies sometimes have conflicting ideas on what it is. Well, what Nevada and also Wyoming have done is decide to clearly define cryptocurrency as something else, right? There's many types of assets, real assets, tangible, intangible. Well, they define cryptocurrencies as none of the above. And with that separate definition, they decide to exempt cryptocurrencies from many of the existing tax laws, which is huge because that means at the state level, at least, you don't have to file any of those capital gains realization reports whenever you buy something or transact in cryptocurrencies. Now, the disadvantage that those states have is they don't have the same level of tax autonomy that we have in the Northern Mariana Islands. So what they can do is limited to the state level. Here, we can go all the way and completely eliminate all of those paperwork requirements that are so tedious and troublesome.
U.S. Mariana Islands, prepared to go all the way. It would take very little to basically implement this change in Nevada here in the U.S. Mariana Islands, right?
Yeah.
The number, 855-450-3733. It's 855-450-FREE, and we'll get to your Discord calls here in the future. Free Talk Live.
I want to tell you about my favorite cryptocurrency wallet, Edge Wallet, at edge.app. Edge is the wallet I use more than any other, and that was true long before Edge Wallet became a sponsor of Free Talk Live. Edge Wallet allows you to buy, sell, trade, and securely hold your cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, tokens, Monero, Ripple, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, and more. It's available for both Android and iOS, and you can download it via the Play or App Store or via Edge Wallet's website, edge.app. Secure your freedom with Edge Wallet.
Talk Live. Call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. We're talking about the U.S. Mariana Islands. It's Mark with you.
And Alex.
855-450-3733. And let's go to the AMP-only call-in lines on Discord with Gene the Christian Anarchist. Gene, can you hear me? Apparently not. Let's try it now.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Hello.
Yep. Well,
okay, good.
My first Discord call over here in the Mariana Islands. I appreciate you working with me.
And I'm glad to be on your first show from the Mariana Islands, having been there once for about a week, and rather enjoyed my stay there. But my brother-in-law said the politics were kind of screwy, but then he's kind of biased, so who knows?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that the politics aren't screwy here. But at the same time, it's the politics are screwy everywhere. So if there's problems,
that's for sure. Now I'm kind of interested in this tax situation. I went 20 years without paying the income tax, and I don't like those B word people, because I think that everything you own belongs to you. It doesn't belong to them. So I'm really interested in how that's going to work, because especially being a U.S. citizen, if you go there, so you're saying you have to basically revoke your citizenship then? Because I think other than that, you're still going to be liable for the tax in their eyes.
Your citizenship, you become a resident of a U.S. territory. There are two options on getting getting taken off the IRS rolls. One, you revoke your citizenship and move someplace in the United States that's not the United States. Two, move to a U.S. territory. And by a U.S. territory, you can undo the move anytime you want. So I'm currently on the road to being recognized as a resident of the U.S. Mariana Islands by the IRS. And once that occurs, then I will be off their rolls. I will be no longer responsible for paying income tax to the United States government. And
now, what do they determine as a resident? Like if you have to spend more than 6 months there?
Yeah, you can look on the IRS website. I believe the form is 8898, if I'm not mistaken. And they list different requirements. There's a few tests you have to pass. The bona fide residency test, that's the main one. There's a physical presence test and a closer connections test. So the IRS website gives you some guidance on that. And, of course, you should always talk with a lawyer or accountant before doing tax planning. But the essential version is that you move here for 6 months to initially establish residency. After that 6 months, you just need to spend more time here and have a closer connection here to anywhere else in the mainland. So if you were an expat who lived in, I don't know, Thailand or Philippines, you're retired, you're living off Social Security or pension, and you're sick of paying the federal government even though you haven't been to the U.S. in a couple of years, you could change your residency to Northern Mariana Islands for 6 months, have a closer connection here to the mainland, and you could relieve yourself of a significant tax burden.
And you mentioned something about property was pretty cheap there, but earlier Mark said you had to lease the property. So is it cheap to lease or is it cheap to own?
Both. So
Right. So a U.S. citizen, regular mainlander. So you have to be this thing called a NMD, Northern Mariana Descent. And they actually have a list of these people because there's so few of them, frankly, of people who can own property here, what they call fee simple. So a fee simple deed. So they can rent that property, at least that property out to you for 55 years, and then you have control of it in that amount of time, and there's no property tax there, and you sort of do what you want. But after 55 years, it reverts back to them. There's a few ways to address that. You could get a condominium that isn't on the ground floor, at which point you just own it fee simple. Or you could get, you could work with an agency kind of thing in this weird situation that's not really clear whether it's legal or not, where they would sort of keep renewing the lease for you, and they kind of own it, and then they keep renewing your lease whenever you ask them to, and it's hard to exactly describe that one, but I don't expect to live 55 more years personally. How about you, Gene?
That would be a miracle if I did. That would be pretty amazing. But yeah, my biggest thing is I just hate the IRS. You know, I've hated them for a very long time, and so the more I learn, the more attractive Mariana Islands looks to me.
Yeah,
but
my wife,
for us, we'd have to wrap up our business in order to move there. You know,
your wife's Chinese too, right?
Yeah. And so it would be closer to China.
Well, I'll tell you what, she's really close to China, considering how many Chinese people are here. So she'll appreciate the food downtown. We just stopped at a Taiwanese restaurant and enjoyed some noodle soup. I don't exactly know what the different types are, but that type is exactly that's what they have. So
in addition, I would point out that your wife's family would be able to visit visa-free. I'm sure as a Chinese citizen and families who are Chinese citizen, it's very hard for your in-laws to come over. Have they been able to visit you yet?
Well, most her mother and sister and everybody live here in the U.S., so there's not a lot of family left in China, just distant relatives.
So your wife is one of the lucky ones. For those whose Chinese wives are not so lucky, living in the Mariana Islands could be a great way for their in-laws to see America without having to get a visa.
Yeah, it sounds good. Maybe someday I'll have to come back there.
Thanks for the call, Gene. Appreciate it.
Come back and check it out.
The number, 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE. I must say that I did speak with Roger Ver briefly about this project. He expressed some interest. I don't know whether exactly how Bitcoin.com is going to approach the U.S. Mariana project here, the crypto cluster, as we're calling it. What's the website again, Alex?
CryptoFrontier.org.
CryptoFrontier.org. But if you go to Bitcoin.com, that's Roger Ver's site, you will see, well, the easiest way to just get started in the cryptocurrency sphere. You can get a wallet there. You can You can buy cryptocurrency there. You can buy Bitcoin Cash. They have really great fees as far as it goes. They also have local.bitcoin.com, which allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin Cash without having any kind of sort of compliance rules. I mean, if you don't care about that, you can do it anonymously. They're encrypted. The communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. I think the Bitcoin.com is the best news site out there. So if you go to news.bitcoin.com to get your cryptocurrency news, you can check out all the things that are going on. I am actually on their Telegram feed too, so I get the news stories there. It's news.bitcoin.com. And one thing I noticed when you picked me up from the airport, Alex, is that you get some really heavy tint on your windows.
Yeah, in Saipan, we have two tints that we jokingly call misdemeanor tint and felony tint.
The what tint? What was it? Misdemeanor tint? And
yeah,
what?
Misdemeanor tint and felony tint.
Felony tint. Did you get the felony tint or the misdemeanor tint?
I went for the full felony.
The full felony. So it's legal, actually, to have whatever tint you want on your windows here, right?
Yeah, there's no tint restrictions here, which is pretty unheard of in the U.S. context.
I can't say that would be a motivating factor to get me to move, but it's kind of an indication of how things are approached around here. When you talk about U.S. citizens owning a condominium, would they have to pay property tax on that condominium?
No, there'd be no property tax. There may be some HOA or condominium type arrangements, but that will depend on your condo docs. But in terms of the government intervention, there will not be any property tax because there aren't any here.
Mariana Islands looking better and better. 855-450-3733. Free Talk Live. Final segment. It's Mark with you.
And Alex.
You can call in, talk about whatever is on your mind. We can still squeeze you in here on Free Talk Live. The number, 855-450-3733. Alex, let me tell you about Divi real quick. Divi is a new cryptocurrency that I'm pretty excited about. And their next generation wallet is on the way. In just a few taps, you'll be able to spend, earn, store, and exchange digital money in seconds. Divi says you'll be able to send money around the globe with only a swipe and instantly exchange between Divi, Bitcoin, and government currencies right in the mobile app. You can withdraw directly to your bank account. There's no need to wait, though, as Divi already offers the first one-tap solution for earning passive income with their multi-tiered master nodes, allowing anyone right now to earn by supporting the Divi network. So you go there, the one-click master nodes. This is a money-making operation, and it's really easy to set up. The new Divi wallet launches because of Divi's relationship with Western Union. It'll be right in 200 countries from the beginning, including the United States. You can learn more. Just go to diviproject.org. It's diviproject.org. Divi, by the way, has done reasonably well here in the recent past when many of the other cryptocurrencies were having trouble financially. Divi was increasing in value. Let's go to the phones. James in Arizona, you're on Free Talk Live. James.
Anti-statist, making like a statist back in this.
Oh, this is that James in Arizona.
To be alive.
James, you have a court order that says you are not allowed to contact me because you have threatened my 11-year-old son with bodily harm. Sincerely hope the FBI does what they did with Cantwell and comes and gets you. 855-450-3733. So we've talked about many of the freedoms that you could experience here on Mariana Islands, Alex. One of the things that somebody said to me was, watch out for that Contra virus or whatever that's going around in China. And I kind of had seen it. I never really paid much attention to, these medical scares that they have going on. What's the deal with it?
Yeah, so like you, I try not to get too worried about the latest thing the fake news is talking about, but it seems there might be some legitimate reason to be concerned. There's about 25 people confirmed dead. There's probably many more than that who haven't been confirmed yet. And it's gotten so severe that China's quarantined entire cities of millions of people. The biggest, Wuhan, I believe, is around 8 million. They shut down the public transportation system closed the railroads, and closed the airports, which is a pretty wild thing to think about from an American context.
Quarantined an 8 million person city.
And to make matters worse...
You couldn't do that in the U.S.
Well, never say never, but let's hope so. And to make matters worse, it's also Chinese New Year, which is the busiest travel season in the entire world.
Right. More people travel for Chinese New Year than any other time or thing in the world.
So it couldn't be a worse time for some kind of disease-borne pathogen where people are going back to their hometowns, spreading it all around the country and even around the world.
Hugging relatives.
Yeah.
Kissing babies. Yeah, it's not going to be good.
But I think we'll be okay out here, and we'll just have to hope for the best, like everyone else.
I guess that's what you got to do. Let's go to Nick calling in from Aberdeen, Washington. Nick, you're on Free Talk Live.
I'm calling about Washington voted in the $30 car tabs, and then
a $30 car tab. What's a car tab?
Well, some of these car tabs can be $5, $6. Can be thousands of dollars. But what I want to do, we voted it in, and all of a sudden they want to take it away. And if everybody will just come out and not pay their tabs, police will pull us over. We'll have to go to court. We'll ask for a trial. And the Washington State people have said that we want $30 car tabs. We will win every time, at least 90% of the time. I don't know exactly because there's probably some people that are for that, hundreds of dollars in car tabs.
Let me get this straight,
Nick. Why can't they go with the voters?
I got some questions here. So, car tab, you're saying the little sticker that they put on a license plate to renew it every year, right?
Yes, the Washington State. Every year we have to pay these amounts, and they can be hundreds to thousands of dollars, depending on how much your car is worth.
So some people in some states, these stickers that go on the New Year sticker, whatever it's called. You're calling them car tabs, and I'll go with that. Tab's a nice short word. I like it. So these car tabs can cost. In Florida, I think it was $40 when I left there some time ago, and I think it's a fixed amount. In some states, it's a fixed amount. And other states, it's dependent on the value of the car. So if you have yourself a handmade Mercedes Maybach, you might pay, like you said, $100,000. And I don't know. I've never had one, so I couldn't speak to that situation. But the people of Washington had some referendum. When was this referendum that voted in $30 car tabs?
It was right before the end of the year. And it was passed unanimously. No, last year.
2019.
And now we're fighting with them. And I heard the lady that owns the license department today and said they're trying to bury this thing. And I just don't agree with it. And if we all just let them write us up for a ticket and go to court and say we're not guilty and ask for a trial, they're trying to tell us that they can't prosecute people that are crapping on our street, peeing on the street. What are they going to do to us? The people that are
welcome
to
Seattle, right? Yeah, that's.
I'm in Aberdeen. They bought 71 tents. They gave them a whole lot. And then they don't sleep on the ground. We got to have cots. We got to have sleeping bags. We bought special tents, and I don't know what they cost, but they look really expensive.
The homeless situation out west baffles me. I don't even know how to approach it, Nick. Basically, everybody wants to live out west because the weather's better than it is out east. So the homeless people who have nothing to hold them back, no job, no house, they head on out to, at the very least, sleep under nicer skies. And it's putting in a tremendous amount of pressure on folks out west. And I can't even come up with a solution other than somehow get them out of your town. But, the United States Supreme Court.
How about lowering housing prices by reducing zoning regulations?
Well, there's an idea. So you lower housing prices by reducing zoning regulations. Let them build their own little hut to live up under.
I'd like to respond to that. Because
go ahead, Nick.
They have made us I mean, I met an older couple. They're probably in their 70s. They build a house, a little shed and all that. They had to build it 4 feet above ground because they say it's a flood zone. It's crazy. It like quadruples, or I don't know how many more times it makes the expensive of foundation and all that stuff. And then, you know, everything's just, they're trying to make it so you can't build a house down here. I could build I own a house. It's a 2-story house, but next to me is an empty lot. And I could build a couple tiny houses and everybody would be great, but you can't do it. It's against the regulations.
Right,
so
it's the government regulations that make it nearly impossible, and there's no end in sight to those. But yeah, they try to say that basically, and that's what I think Alex's point was, is that the government makes it really hard for a homeless person to keep the rain from falling on them. You're not looking, the flood zone might flood once a year. That's not my problem tonight. My tonight problem is keeping the rain off of my head or whatever. So, that's it's just one proposal to try to deal with the homeless situation. But I do appreciate the call, Nick. Thanks for.
And another thing is, I don't know if you can listen to me for a couple more seconds, is that the Aberdeen Council has made it so that all of us renters have to go through and prove that we have heat and water and everything that every house has. They have to come in and inspect us, and we have to pay for it and all that. But here they got 71 people living out there without any water, any power, any toilets. How do they get away with this? They got their own rules, and they just try to run over us.
I'll tell you this: if people like you keep speaking up, they won't get away with it.
Thanks for the call, Nick.
Thanks for the call, and thanks for voicing those very relevant observations.
It seems like the government always does that, right? So they make it as easy as possible for the homeless person. And this comes back to what's the old Reagan statement that has, I don't know, if it moves, tax it. If it stops, subsidize it. If it, I don't know, whatever the statement is. But basically, homeless people get all kinds of money.
LRN.FM now has a Discord. Discord is a free text and voice chat platform, and we now have our own server with a bunch of channels at discord.lrn.fm. You can join other listeners as they chat about various things during our live shows, or anytime, day or night. Discord software is available cross-platform, so you can have it on whatever device you want and take your chats anywhere. Join our Discord at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm.